Hey, very good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Sean.
This is Alex.
This is Ian.
And this is Sven.
And this is the first time I think all four of us are on at the same time. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so.
It is.
Okay, good. My failing memory hasn't filled me yet.
It's very exciting.
And today is the 100th official episode of Coast to Kings Radio. Really the 161st in reality. And that's because they have a ton of what do they have? Like a mini-series, minisodes, you have specials,
Yes.
and whatnot. But the most important part is the official 100th episode. So all four of us came together to record this today on this sunny day here in Orlando, Florida. I don't know what the weather's like where you're at, but it's cute here.
It's not.
It's dark here.
And so today is going to be kind of a throwback to the history of the last 5 years of Coast Kings Radio. So I guess we started this in March of 2019 after Alex and I first moved to Orlando. And we'll talk a little bit about the history of Coast Kings as a whole for those that don't know our story. And Sven and I were kind of chatting, and I think all of us in the group chat kind of decided that it was a good idea to make this episode more about who we are as Coast Kings. So the best way to learn about us as coaster and theme park nerds is to learn about our favorite rides and attractions, all that kind of good stuff. So that'll be a big focus of today with a top 40, for example, which we'll get to that in a second. Do any of you guys want to add anything before I dive into the first section? Was my introduction satisfactory?
That was great.
So beautiful.
Very good, yeah.
Excellent
We're
work.
totally ready. From
Okay,
Europe to Ohio to Florida. Let's
Yes.
go.
From cold to warm. Let's start. So we're going to start off with just a little bit of a history situation here. So for those who don't know, California Coaster Kings was the original Coaster Kings, and that launched in June of 2013. I was roaming around Magic Mountain and I saw
Wow.
Full Throttle's media event, and I was like, oh, that's kind of lit. I kind of want to be part of that. And then the same day, my friend and I, Ryan, which if you're listening, hi Ryan, we decided to start a website and some social media, and California Coast Kings was born. Funny enough, I don't even into sports because I'm gay. I mean, no offense to the gay guys that are into sports, but there's the Kings, like the LA Kings. You know, like that.
The basketball team.
No, the hockey team.
The hockey
Alexander.
team. Sorry, the Lakers. Basketball team.
You know, we're like, oh, Kings, it adds to the California theme. So, that's kind of how we started. Anyway, it doesn't matter. California Coast Kings launched in 2013. And then I got this crazy, bright idea, which led to a long road of meeting lots of great new people. In late 2015, in December, to launch European Coaster Kings. Because, from Europe, and I was like, oh, back to the roots, all that fun stuff. And then I met Sven, a month later. Sven, how did I meet you again?
Yeah, so... Oh, I'm so glad you remember. No, but some of the first articles on European Coaster Kings were about the construction of the still tallest and fastest roller coaster in Europe. So Red Force, and I think Alex from Esteves from Spain was your first official member that reported on that. And I accidentally fell on that, and then I was like, that's nice. I want to be part of that team and expand and talk more about coasters. And then, almost 10 years later, we're still here.
We're still here. And then in 2017, I met Alex later in 2016, so believe it or not, I've known Sven longer than Alex. And so Alex was, doing his little flight attendant thing, and so he was like, you know what, I'll be the cabin crew Coaster Kings. And I was like, okay,
That was cute.
It was cute.
That was a cute
I still remember
period.
designing your color palette for you because you were like, wow, I love this particular train on California Screamin', which was a purple and bright electric yellow train.
Yes.
And so you were so excited about the color palette. I designed that color palette for the cabin crew Coaster Kings phase of our existence, which was started by Alex, I guess. And then in 2018, we were like, oh, let's just add more to this mix because I have all this free time, I guess. And we started Florida Coaster Kings with Nick, who lives in Orlando, but is not really part of the team anymore. But
Nick, if you're listening.
We still love you.
Yeah.
We look forward to seeing you around the parks at some point again. And then later in 2018, we then combined European Coaster Kings and California Coaster Kings into one website, thecoasterkings.com. And that's because we were leaving California. We're like, well, there's no need to have a California Coaster Kings website when we're based in Florida and in Europe. So we merged that together. And same for all of our social media, it was all merged together. Except for, we still did our individual brands, but the Cabin Crew Coaster Kings just became the Coaster Kings. It's like a general like poster stuff there. And then we had our sub-brands for California, Europe, and Florida, which again, in the, like, I'm going to be honest, like, looking back at this, I wonder if that was ever the smartest idea, but, you know, growing pains, I guess. It was different.
Differentiated us, and it was, it looked nice. Like, having multiple accounts with like thousands and thousands of followers, that looked nice in emails.
Yeah,
that we sent to theme
it is
parks,
true. We did get a lot of admission out of that. Not that we were doing it for that, but
media stuff.
You know, our numbers look particularly good.
The optics were nice.
And in the early social media game, I think it was really acceptable to have like your sub brands, because I feel like everything had a sub brand in social media. You know, everything was like, oh, you know, Al Jazeera and AJ Plus and like all these. Everyone had like a little version of itself. But then I feel like social media got very saturated very quick after that, and I think that's also when we realized that posting on 4 accounts every day wasn't going to be sustainable. Anyway, in 2019, in March, like mentioned earlier, we started Coaster Kings Radio. And then in spring of 2020, when the whole world went to hell, we started a TikTok account, which is actually pretty successful. TikTok account ended up, we have 17 videos that have more than 1 million views. A lot more. I actually just went through a whole account to make this little podcast notes. So a lot more actually that are really close to 1 million. And then one of them has 31 million views, which they removed the audio from it. I'm so pissed. It was that video of Talokan at Phantasialand with, was it Regina George
freaking out from Mean Girls. So funny.
Oh my god, it was a good.
I was so proud of that.
Yeah, it was such a good video. Anyway, it's still up, except for the audio. And I had another video of us at Legoland that's now 21 million. It keeps growing.
Oh, the little boats.
Yeah, it's like 3, 2, 1 race
race.
time, and somehow the race time video is as high as it is. And then we got a couple of other good videos. And then that summer, Ian joined us. Ian, I don't even remember how we got you on the team.
You had posted something about looking for more people, and I was like, 2 gay men like doing roller coasters, like, this is for me. Like, no joke. Like, I was like, this is my chance to shine. And I had just moved to a new city. I didn't know anybody and was very bored at a new job. And so when I saw the opportunity, I was like, yeah, absolutely. And I think the first thing I did for you all was I did a series, article on the Aero inversions ranked, which is so niche that it could only have been birthed in like 2020 when we were like, what are we supposed to talk about with all the parks?
It was
that
top
time.
5 after top 5.
It's
yeah,
like rank all of the Disney Mine Train coasters.
But I also think that like the fact that like we all love Aero and like old school Vekoma, like it was like, oh, this is like my people, and it's been great ever since.
That's right.
It's true. Yeah, you really did have that love for the Aeros that. Not many people I know love Aeros like that. That was, I think, one of the first things I appreciated so much about your input on everything was your love for old classic loopers and
a little,
banging your
some
head.
would say unreasonable. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, people are like, what is wrong with these people? Like, they love Viper, and then suddenly there's like a third person on the team that's
like, you
over
guys
here.
only claim to like Viper for clout, and I'm like,
I still like to believe that we made a really positive impact on Viper's current love, because everyone now loves Viper.
Now
everyone's
everyone
trending
loves
to
Viper.
like Viper. Because we spent like years talking about how great Viper was and how underrated it was, and writing articles about how great Viper was.
and people talked mad
You know,
shit.
and then slowly it turned. I got a comment a couple months ago from someone. It's like, you know what? I still single-handedly think you guys like made Viper popular, and I'm like, okay, I'll take that.
Now we're
I
trying
don't know how
to
true it is, but I'll take it.
And now
Absolutely.
we're working on Goodrix, and it's getting there.
Yeah, Goodrix is next.
People are admitting that Goodrix
Good
is
luck.
excellent. Like, it's
Benjamin,
happening.
I will not be discouraged.
I also love, Sean, how you remember how we joined your team. That's incredible.
You know what? I have this suspicion that I'm slowly losing my mind a little bit. I know that's just a topic for off air.
No,
I guess, but
you're
like,
just so used to having us into your life.
yeah,
Yeah,
you guys are like
exactly.
you're like long-standing family at this point that I kind of forgot where you even came from, which is a good thing.
Aw.
It is.
That's
Oh.
like that's a good thing. And so then in November 2022, we actually, this was right before I started my job with United, we actually decided to kind of roll all of the social media into one and then keep European Coaster Kings too. So we have just the Coaster Kings now, and we sunsetted Florida Coaster Kings and California Coaster Kings. And yeah, that's kind of it. So we have European Coaster Kings still, which is still at like 50,000 followers, which is pretty good. I don't even know the numbers.
You ran off and did your little flight attendant thing, and now we're both flight attendants.
Yeah, we are both flight attendants, but I think most listeners know that, right?
Scale back some of our stuff because we were too busy.
And then, let's see. So that's kind of still the same way that it has been.
Yeah.
And then I will say that our presence on the website has diminished to a very occasional article. I just use it more to promote the podcast now, because the podcast, I think, is the media I enjoy doing the most. I think website-based media is slowly dying a little bit, especially with like social media and videos and reels and TikToks. Like, information is just presented differently these days, and to maintain a website is a lot. But we did post about 1,400 articles over the last, well, I say like 11 years. Which is, and most of them are from more than a year ago, of course. But we do have all that live still. Anyone that wants to look at any of the articles, there are still like 1,400 pieces of information out there. But I don't think we're going to be adding to it much more unless people feel really passionate about doing that here. Speak now. I just don't know if that is. I'm just too busy for that, honestly. I think I enjoy the podcast and photography the most. So I think that's what I've been focusing on. Guess it becomes like a real life discussion. I don't know if you guys feel differently about that, but
I liked writing more before, but I'm just not as I'm just not as inclined to sit and write about theme parks like I used to be.
Like in COVID, it was fun, right? Like top 5,
yeah, definitely
Disney drop rides and stuff. But I just don't know if that is what I need to do with my time anymore.
I think as I get older, I'm just here for the rides. Like, I'm trying to. Right. Enjoy it as leisurely as possible instead of thinking overly analytically and critically about stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if I could think about the 5 best Aero versions these days. I can barely even make a top 5 of anything.
But I can't articulate them anymore. I don't have the energy to articulate these rankings and these lists.
Yeah. It's just,
also, people are mean and annoying, and I'll be like, here's my opinion on this thing that is a consequence of my lived experience, and then the comments will be like, you suck, you're an idiot, I hope you die. It's like, cool, thanks.
And just to wrap up...
Is that a dog that I'm hearing?
No, that's my dog. I apologize.
It is your dog.
A squeaky toy. She ran back. Right, my husband just came home, so she's really excited about someone
showing her toy to Dad.
Does your dog have a coaster name?
She doesn't. Her name's Daisy. So I guess it's like sort of Disney adjacent. I guess that's
it
something.
Is still theme park.
So we all have at least one theme park pet. Because Sven, you want to share with the world your pets' names?
Yes.
Of course, they're Pardoes and Pardijn, the infamous duo from the Efteling.
So cute.
Super cute.
I love it.
But true story, they didn't have. I'm not the person that named them that way. We just adopted them with those names. So that's like the beauty of it.
That's crazy.
That is the beauty of it. Yeah, we have Chandu, which is named after the little character of the storybook Voyages of Sinbad at Tokyo Disney Sea.
Ah, yes.
And then Bill, which is not related to that. But yeah, Chandu is,
There's lots of Bills in the theme park world,
Bill.
Of course.
Buffalo Bill.
Buffalo Bills, there you go.
Duh.
Money Bills.
Poor coaster is no longer operating. Anyway, so 100th episode today. Again, 161st actual episode. So if you're looking for like 60 plus bonus episodes, minisodes, there's all this good stuff out there. We'll highlight a couple of them later. But before we do that, I want to thank some of our active team members that we have, including, like Sven mentioned, Alex Estevez. He started European Coaster Kings with me. The way that we got up there really was with our Red Force coverage. I don't know, it just kind of happened. He just kind of happened to be close by, and we posted all those photos, and it worked. So shout out to him. Of course, shout out to André Soler, who's another one of our Spanish theme park gurus. Emma Matthews in the UK. James Haskins in the UK / Germany. Like, he's all over the place. Germany, I guess, officially now?
He travels a lot. I love that.
Well, he's been studying there, yeah, but he is a lot in Germany, and he's been providing us with lots of content from both Europe mainland and from the UK. So definitely a strong member in the team.
Yeah, he's a legend. He shows us all the cool fairs I didn't even know existed. And of course, Arthur, Christians in Belgium. Shout out to Sven, Ian, Alexander. You guys are all cute.
And all the former members as well that have contributed in the past.
100%. We have a lot of former.
But we're not going to name all of them.
Yeah, we had a lot of them.
No.
Yeah, through the years, I had a lot. So thank you all to anyone that's ever been involved, and including our listeners, followers, readers. I know many of you have been along for the ride for 10 years from our small little articles about how Big Thunder Mountain was getting a refurb in Anaheim to whatever we're doing now. Thank you for being along for the whole ride. And now it's time to kind of dive into our next section. That is our coaster top 40. So before we start this top 40, I want to make one thing very clear. The point of this top 40 is for it to be a collective top 40. Like, we all have top 10s, and then we make sure there's like 40 different entries. And the reason was Alex had some long story about U2 doing something like that.
I'm just
really
saying.
Cute. And so it was a fun idea. I just want to let you know that I did my top 10 last. I threw some wild cards in there. If you ever think wow, Sean, your top 10 is so stupid.
Yeah, if you're wondering why some of our top 10s are odd,
it's complimenting.
Anytime there was overlap, we would skip and go to the next coaster down on the list, so to speak. So
because we didn't discuss this earlier, but maybe do we have to put them in a certain order, or can we just these are the top 40 of the Coaster Kings?
These are top 40.
Yeah.
Because mine are not in order at all.
Yeah, mine aren't in order.
Well, that's what we're going to do then. Then we can each time send one in and talk about it.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll just rotate then.
Yeah, sounds
Ian,
good.
Yes.
Start us off.
Okay, I will start with one that I know all of us love. At least I love a lot. When I first became a roller coaster enthusiast, when I was in high school, it was after a trip to Kings Island. We can talk about that later. But I lived in Northern California, and my dad took me to Six Flags Magic Mountain during the off season. And I was there when a certain pink and yellow coaster was getting repainted red and black. And so X2 has loomed heavy on my mind. And I finally wrote it about 2 years ago now, and it is my number one Aero love forever, and it just holds a very special place in my heart.
That ride really is batshit crazy, especially the part where it bats into your head. That ride is memorable. End. Yeah, oh my god, that last Raven turn is not for the weak. Nothing is for the weak on that ride, but
no, and I also think those restraints are oddly comfortable, which was the biggest surprise for me. Was that the weird hinge? It just was, but not very secure. You really are just being thrown around.
It's true. I always thought oh my god, especially when I first wrote it. I mean, I first wrote it in 2011. I still lived in Europe. I was on vacation here, and then I still remember going on the first drop, being flying around. I was like, oh my god, my whole legs are pretty much everything below my chest is freely swinging around the universe. How does nobody? Yeah, I got hurt on that. I kind of wondered that sometimes. Do you think about that?
No, people get hurt on it all the time.
I know. I'm just trying to say it very kindly. Yeah. All right. So crazy.
The fun thing about this coaster is that all four of us have ridden it.
It is true.
That's
true. We should count how many of these you've all ridden. I'll take it.
Absolutely.
That sounds kind of fun.
Absolutely. That sounds fun.
Okay.
Because
we got one.
Okay. Well, for me, it was. Yeah, I think it was the first coaster I rode at Six Flags Magic Mountain for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But I remember that it was one of the coasters that I was scared of riding. For the first time.
Absolutely.
Because not terrified, but that feeling okay, I'm finding it a lot more scarier than I thought I would, and the not knowing what would happen, even though it's a fixed ride cycle.
I feel the scariest part of the ride is the anticipation. Going backwards, look at the park, it's all pretty, mountains in the background. But then you get you crest the lift, depending on which seat you're in, of course. You kind of hang there almost upside down, waiting for the rest, especially in row one, for the rest of the train to crest. And you kind of stare down this 200-foot pit, and you're oh, but you're hanging upside down. I don't know, I have fond memories of my first rides. I was very impressed I was very impressionable because it was. I mean, I wrote that when I had less than 50 credits for the first time. I mean, I was not very traveled when I wrote that first.
And then the fact that it's terrain, it's like that terrain dive into the dirt with your head first. I just don't think there's much that's ever done that again. Like even the other 40 coasters aren't. I think that with the exception of, actually now I mention it, probably Ejinaika is the only one that doesn't do this. But like just the fact that it is like a terrain coaster in parts is so crazy when you think about everything else it's doing.
I think people forget about it all the time. Yeah, the station's on a hill. Yeah, the rest is off the deep end. Yeah, I kind of forgot about that too.
Yeah. I think so. Anyways, that's my first choice from my 10. Who wants to go next?
Svenjamin.
Well, the first coaster I want to talk about is one that finally put Belgium on the coaster map in the world. And that's Ride to Happiness by Tomorrowland. Because that coaster, it really, together, of course there was Conda as well at the same year, but that one is the one to ride and the one of the major reasons to visit. But the craziest thing about it is the location also, because it's like in freaking Plopsaland.
Yeah, like it's like in a children's park. Yeah, it's
a children's park. And then all of a sudden they were like, yeah, we're going to collab. Like Plopsa is a major brand in Belgium and the Netherlands, though. And so they decided, okay, let's collab with another major brand from Belgium, which is Tomorrowland. And that gave us the birth of this Mack extreme spinning coaster where they just said to Mack, do whatever you want, make it as fun as possible. And then, to finally be able to ride it with the onboard music, that every ride is different. It might get stuck at some point, but well, not anymore.
Part. But I love that ride.
So it's already, even though it's so new, it's an icon for me for the coasters in the world.
Sven, so I haven't ridden it, but I remember when they were being constructed, I forget which episode, you were talking about how you were looking forward to Conda more than Ride to Happiness. And I think that a lot of people were. They were like, oh, the Intamin Hypercoaster, like this is more exciting. Because we're all kind of like, Intamin gets us all excited versus the Mack Spinner. And just the way that turned out totally different than everyone expected, I think is one of the best twists in recent coaster wars.
I
for sure.
Because, I mean, I think almost everyone now unilaterally agrees that Ride to Happiness is better. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But Ride to Happiness really is like one of those rides where, God, like, I don't think they can do it again. I know, of course, they're working on the one for Holiday Park in Germany, and I'm very excited for it, but there's just something about, I mean, of course, they had to fit Ride to Happiness into the plot of Plopsaland Head, which is like using that sliver of river and using this sliver and that sliver. Like, it's just a bunch of slivers, really. And so they fit that ride into this weird, like, like Tetris shape. And now I feel like it forced them to be really creative with what they did. And sometimes having a lot of room to work with, which Holiday Park has a lot of room to work with. I don't know what to expect from that, but I don't know if it's going to be any better than Ride to Happiness. I'm not keeping my hopes up, because Ride to Happiness is like superb. It's like the second coming of the 4D coaster, in my opinion.
It really is. The first time I rode it, I'm like, I am very anxious. I feel like I'm riding X2 because I'm so like terrified of what this is going to do to my body.
Absolutely no hate to Silver Dollar City's Time Traveler, but it made Time Traveler feel incredibly tame. Yeah, it's like it's almost like they're not even the same product line. Yeah, it's like
Time Traveler is a lot gentler.
Yeah, like Time Traveler is really cool, and of course is also in the mountains. But I mean, nothing holds a candle to a Ride to Happiness. Anyway, so I guess I will jump on the next ride here. I'm just gonna go into the order that I put on the paper, so I don't lose track of it. But first and foremost, of course, I mean, Hyperspace Mountain in Disneyland Paris. I mean, what's not to love of that ride? We have tattoos of the ride because we love it so much. Getting launched on a Vekoma Looper into a Jules Verne-themed show building that is now themed to Star Wars, whatever, it's fine. Spectacular.
I've never seen someone so angry when the first time he visits and a coaster is closed.
Oh my God!
And I mean, that already
with me for that one.
That already explained the love that you were about to have for
that ride
coaster.
before you even wrote it.
Yeah. Oh my god. I don't know if Ian knows the story or anyone here knows the story, but it was a dark day in April of 2018, and we had just traveled through the night to get to Disneyland Paris. And my one goal was to ride Hyperspace Mountain because I was so excited. And then at one point, we're like in the other park, we rode Rock and Roller Coaster, now Adventure Assemble. And we got queue dumped from Ratatouille, and we were all like mad. So we like went to customer service, and with our Disneyland hoodies, we were like, oh, we want a fast pass for another ride. So they gave us a fast pass for Hyperspace. I'm like, oh my god, nothing go wrong. We have a fast pass for Hyperspace. Let's hop over next door. And we get there and the ride's closed, like big closed, like may never reopen closed. And so I'm like, nah, man, like I came here for this ride. I have a fast pass in my hand,
Sean
like
had a
paper ticket. So I sat on the rocks for like probably 2 hours.
Sven and I went and rode Small World.
I just sat there on the rocks, like big mad, looking at the ride. And I was like, the moment it opens, I'm running in. And it never opened, and I was so pissed. I was so sad. I had a terrible day. I mean, I had a really terrible day. Like, it was probably one of the worst days of my... Oh, it's not so dramatic. But it wasn't a cute look for me. And then... But now, of course, I've ridden her many, many times, and it's great. Yeah. So she's in our top 40.
My first coaster is Tron, obviously. When Sean and I were putting together these lists, it's like kind of a joint top 20 for us, really... in general, because like we share a lot of the same interests, and
we're currently sitting in a room themed to Tron with like hundreds of dollars worth of Tron merchandise.
The first thing I said was like, well, who gets Hyperspace and who gets Tron for the episode? And Sean picked Hyperspace, so I picked Tron as my...
Which is funny because I've been a Tron fan for a very long time. I mean, I went and saw Tron Legacy in IMAX like 4 times. Like, and I didn't even live in America. Like, I literally just went here and saw it 4 times and left. Yeah, like that's pretty much how my Christmas was in 2010. Anyway,
but we just love Tron. That's a great ride, and it's just been a fun ride to enjoy over the years with like visits to China, and then like our second visit to Shanghai Disney. I like asked Sean to marry me on Tron. With Tron themed wedding rings and everything, and then we moved to Orlando. More or less specifically because of Tron at Magic Kingdom, and now we get to ride it all the time.
Yeah, guess what we're doing tonight?
Yeah, we'll be riding Tron this evening.
And how have the queues been since it's switched to normal queue?
They've been fine. I mean, I will say we've only visited on party days so far. So, like, when it's a Halloween party, the park closes at 6 p.m., which means that most people are not picking their full Magic Kingdom day for that day. So, usually the line is 45 minutes or less, which is great. It is longer on days that there is no party. Like today, I think the line's like 75. But you know what? For a new coaster, that's really doable. Like, I don't mind. And we're going to go tonight and get in line sometime before close and ride in the dark. And that's, I don't mind waiting for one of my favorite rides. Like, we're not mad about it. No. I'm cool.
Mm-hmm. No, I haven't.
Have you ridden
been to
Tron,
Florida
Ian?
And done the actual Florida thing properly. So the only Florida credits I have are Busch Gardens.
Ian, you have to come by. And you have Universal.
Oh, I do have Iowa. I forgot about. Yep. I totally saw you there.
Yep. I saw you
sorry,
there.
but no, those are the two. So I haven't done SeaWorld
we literally voted like a ride together.
Disney, but now that I travel for work, you never know where I'm going to end up next, and hopefully Florida here sooner rather than later.
Okay, and so the next ride on our list is
it
for
Ian's
Ian
turn now? Yeah,
Ian.
It's me. I am going to mention a kind of a unique credit that's in my personal top 10 that's not a lot of people's, which is Mr. Furry's Reverse Blast in Six Flags St. Louis.
Yes.
That's a great
The
ride.
elements are so good. Why we don't have more reverse top hats is beyond me. And get your butts to Texas or to Missouri if you haven't ridden that, because that is such a good ride.
100% agree.
It's so intense.
100%.
Amazing.
That's definitely on my list to ride for sure. Because there's nothing like it in Europe.
In a couple days, I'm going to Texas for a business trip to Dallas, and so I'm going to get to do it in the forward launch. So I'm excited to get that credit.
There's something about being pushed up. I mean, I've only ever done it backwards, and I claim that it is backwards best words. But I am going to say that push on the LSMs, on the vertical, you can feel it struggle a little bit. you can feel that the machine is like trying really hard to get this train up vertically.
Yes. Grunting.
And so you're launching backwards, you're in the sky, and everything's shaking, and it's like, there's just a sort of like power to this ride.
There's this like manic, hysterical
it's
nature
like,
to
it
that
is the
machine.
Perfect coaster for like a theme to like, I guess, is he a villain?
A villain, yeah.
He's
He's a villain. They tell us he's a villain, but he's
Yeah.
like trying to save the world from climate change.
Oh, yeah, I kind of...
And Batman is the one with all the fucking money.
America needs Mr. Freeze.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's I agree completely. That little boost, especially on the reverse where you're just facing downwards, is such a great coaster.
And like, and you're slightly slipping forward in your seat because the boost is not enough to
get you on.
Oh my god, there's just something about that. Oh man, memories, man. That's good.
Yeah, I love
this is fun. This is fun.
That's a great one.
What do you have next,
Benjamin?
For me, the next one on the list is the first RMC in our top 40, and also my personal first RMC, which is Twisted Colossus at Six Flags Magic Mountain.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I love it.
To be fair, like my memory, I mean, it's been a while since I've ridden it, but I did get fortunate enough to ride it each time when it was dueling. So that's definitely something I remember.
That's
And
special, actually, Sven.
Yeah, apparently. But I mean, I guess the first time you ride an RMC is something that you're not forgetting, because
that was my first RMC too. Yeah, it was.
It was my first RMC too.
And
it was the
first. Ian, was it your first RMC?
No, it wasn't. I'm sorry. My first RMC is wild. My first RMC.
Wait, but please hold. This we've all ridden, right?
We've all ridden. Add it to the
Yay!
list. I was gonna say I've only ridden
Twisted. Also the first
Twisted Colossus once. Ian. The one time I've been there, it went down. So I've only ridden it once, and it wasn't a dueling ride. So I don't have a very good impression. For the record, my first RMC was Railblazer, oddly enough, which is a weird RMC to have as the first one.
That's actually a really cute one. Actually, I think Alex was going to say that
it's
our first ride we ever rode together was Twisted Colossus. Like, long story short, like, it was like 4 p.m.
Like 5 minutes.
I was too nervous to meet Alex at Six Flags. He's like, "Are you still coming?" And I was like, literally like a mile down the road. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll come." So I showed up, and then we met at the plaza in the front, and then we rode Twisted Colossus first, which is funny because we're not really RMC girlies like that.
No.
But it was the first ride we ever rode together.
It was just the one to ride at the time. That was what was new.
Yeah,
so.
it was new. So it was a cute look for us.
Nice.
So yeah, God, we got 2 on the tally now.
It's a great choice for a
very great choice.
Ride. When it duels, it's so good.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna throw in. I'm just gonna go out of order now too. I've decided. Okay. So I am gonna go and I'm gonna mention Forest Predator. Oh. And Forest Predator is a B&L wind coaster in Nanjing, in Happy Valley in Nanjing, which is a very tiny little park that is really illogically laid out. It takes you forever to get around. But they have backward seats. And this little punchy little this punchy little wing coaster, God, backwards is wild. Like, it has like tiny little airtime bumps, and it has like keyholes and several inversions, and God, I just love this little ride. It made a big impression on me.
It's a really fun coaster.
So I thought it was a nice compliment to this top 40 situation.
It's nice forward, but also very nice backward. And after having ridden, I rode Swarm backward when it was
me too.
That. And I think Forest Predator is a better ride for it.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that.
I wish they would bring it to the States. I think that it would be so good on what is the new one, Repterra, that's coming to King's Dominion, backward launch. I think it would be so much fun.
Could you imagine? Even the Holiday World one. I feel like a backwards launched wing, we deserve it.
Turn the last row of seats around.
We deserve it.
On Thunderbird, I would actually go and ride it.
I think it'd be so good.
That would be amazing.
I'm surprised that... in Tonnerre de Zeus in France, in Parc Asterix, they had backward seats in the beginning, and you had to pay extra for it. So I'm surprised that that's something that happened in Europe before it happened in the US. Because that sounds like the US thing to do. Unless I'm totally
has done
wrong.
Some backwards wooden coaster stuff. They've dabbled in it for years. I mean,
that you need to pay for it as well.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that is wild that was first in Europe. Yeah, true.
Unless I'm mistaken.
Like in 2014, we had this backwards phase. It was like the Six Flags parks were moving around the chassis for the backwards Batmans, which meant that they would just attach their current existing trains to this backwards chassis, right? And it traveled around, did a Magic Mountain a lot.
That was crazy.
And then they did Viper backwards, and they had at Great America. And then they had Colossus backwards at Magic Mountain for several Fright Fests in a row. Like, there was this phase. There's this phase where everyone's
backwards
like,
coasters.
Backwards. And then now we don't do that.
It's an American legacy, because even, like, the racer at Kings Island kind of started a trend of, like, a backwards side of a double track coaster. Coasters.
What's the problem? Why are they not doing it anymore?
Yeah, I don't know.
If you know the answer, listeners, type it in. Let us know, because I want to know why. Alexander.
Okay, so now I want to talk about Ijunaika, because Ijunaika is amazing. It will never be a bad time to talk about the Alan Schilke 4D coasters, for the same reason that like X2 was a great choice to start the conversation. We rode Ijunaika once, and I was terrified because I already felt sore from everything else that we had been doing that day and on that trip. And I remember thinking, like, I am going to feel really like shit in the morning because of this coaster. Like, I was so scared of, like, the bodily harm. Like, I'm going to pull a muscle in my neck, and I'm going to...
Well, Ijunaika was our second of the 4D coasters. And I think because we were so used to X2, that the scope of Ijunaika was what's most shocking about it.
Very intimidating.
Because Ijunaika is, like, so much bigger.
Violent.
Yeah.
And fast. And the pacing is so different because it really hangs in the elements because of its short little train. It doesn't have the same... like consistent momentum that the other ones have, and the part I remember the most is right before the brake run, where it kind of just like drags your face across the catwalk.
Like, that's just the craziest part. So for those that don't know, like when you hit the brake run in Ijunaika, it just flips you forward, and you are face first with the brake run, actually moving backwards, and it's like you're scraping your head on metal.
But because Ian had X2 and Sean added Dynaconda, I was like, I have to
Thanks
add
for spoiling.
Ijunaika. Yeah. Well, everybody should know by now.
Spoilers!
Obviously, all three of them are going to be talked about. I'm pretty sure those three are in my top 10, like my personal top 10, because all three of those rides are ape shit. Like, I could never just say, like, oh, that's not in my top 10. No, they're amazing.
Ian.
Okay, my turn again. I'm going to take a turn for something that I think is one of the most underrated coasters, which is Raging Bull at Six Flags Great America.
We love her.
I think she's the best B&M hyper. I said it. Don't come for me, Mako.
I agree.
Yes, I accept that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I accept this.
I don't agree, but I accept.
Like, for me, at least, the tunnel, the twister layout, I think the first drop is the best first drop. And honestly, the way it's nestled into the park is real cute for a B&M.
It's real cute.
I appreciate it. So I don't know if anyone else thinks that, but it is.
It's extremely unique.
No, if there's one thing I think about when I think about Six Flags Great America, I think of Raging Bull. The first thing my head goes to Raging Bull, and particularly the figure eight at the end. Yeah. You have a whole ass hypercoaster, and the one part of the ride that sticks with me is that figure eight at the end. It just, it's old school B&M. It's smooth. It works. It's like
they took like from like the old school stand ups like that. They used to do those figure eights, or like the inside stand ups even that they were working on, and it's like just plopped in there. And I'm like, why didn't you guys do this again? Like, why didn't you give us some more lateral moments? Because I take that back. Because like Goliath at Six Flags Over Georgia does some more of the laterals in that way, and I'm like, we need more laterals.
But I feel like it's just a helix.
It's
not like
the problem is they got influenced too much by like Morgan Manufacturing.
It's true.
Aerodynamics.
It's true.
The language, the hypercoaster language was still being written, but by like the mid 2000s, like if you were building a hypercoaster, it had to be this particular shape of like out and back stuff. And then we stuck with that as an industry for like 10 years, at least 15 years. And now hypercoasters are finally getting interesting again. Like Conda has like a lot of weird laterals and stuff.
Yeah, or we just rode Lewa Adventures Flash, and that has like a figure eight at the end. But nothing compares to the original B&M Twister moments, though.
Yeah, I just love it. So yeah, that's 100%. That's my next one.
I respect it.
Sven.
I feel like I'm the one with the normie list. So with the more conventional choices. So I'm going to keep up the RMC story, and the next one I'm going to talk about is Zadra at Energylandia in Poland. So I feel like it's the highest of the ones in Europe. Not that we have many of them, but and it has just a lot of force. Like, it slams those brakes big time. It's also it was a new chapter for Energylandia as well, because it had an entire area built around it. The first actually themed area for the park. It expanded the park greatly as well, and and the queue is enormous. Like, it takes quite a while. If you want to rewrite it, it takes quite a while. And just it's a great ride, and like the typical what you expect from RMC. And then the stall, of course, is very iconic to see.
Because I was so happy when they built Zadra that they brought the stall back, because I think the most iconic part of Goliath at Tickets Great America is that stall. Like, there's just a presence to it, and it's so big. And even though we do stalls on these rides all the time, having a presence of a stall like that, I mean, it's only been done twice, and I'm so glad Zadra brought it back.
I mean, and it was they could do whatever they wanted, because it was not a rebuilding an existing wooden roller coaster. They started from nothing from that one. I also remember that when they were building it, there had been a storm, so parts of it were torn down, but they still opened in time. So, I mean,
America could not relate.
There's something about Energylandia. Alex and I were discussing, and he's like, "Oh, you know what? I've never seen a ride close at Energylandia. I mean, we've never been, but he's just, I guess,
I've just never heard of anybody going and missing a credit.
And I'm
like, that way,
you know what? They seem to be running.
Don't
a pretty
jinx
tight
it.
Ship.
And also,
we're gonna go in May,
and the frickin' Vekoma is gonna be closed.
Plus the latest area that they added to the park, Sweet Valley, that took quite a while to open, though, to be fair.
No, now they're still constructing it. I've seen them building the rockworks for the mine train.
Like rebar and stuff around the mine train and beam it.
But yeah, so Zadra.
Zadra, love it. I'm gonna not do an RMC because I don't have a single RMC on my list, I don't think.
Oh my god, me neither.
I am going to throw...
But we love RMCs.
We love RMCs.
We love Alan Shoki so much.
We are going to talk about Kinaka. Why not? Kinaka is in the top 40 for Coaster Kings because Kinaka deserves it. She's always been better than Top Thrill Dragster, don't at me. And there's something about like the anticipation of that freaking launch. I talk about being nervous, anxious for like anticipation. Something about sitting there, trying to keep my head back, knowing that any second I'm gonna like snap off onto the freaking hydraulic launch on Ka, and then shake and rattle for the next 30 seconds of my life. Yeah, Kinaka does that. Like, there's like such power in that launch. And TTD had it too. But I will say, I've always said this, even when old Top Thrill Dragster was operating, the launch on Ka just feels way more powerful. It's just so even the little bit of speed they needed to get it over the bigger hump, it is noticeable. That launch on Kinaka, do you agree, Alexander?
Yeah.
It's just so much punchier and scarier, and it's just, the whole thing just vibrates to a degree that I don't even know if it's safe. And so, yeah, I love Kinaka. And even though I wouldn't, generally speaking, put it in my top 10, I think it's a really nice compliment to today's list. So, there you go.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's a good choice.
Alrighty, Alex.
Is it my turn again? Okay, so you brought up Flash at Liwa Village, and at that one I added to my top 10 because even though it's, I think it's easy to get really excited about a new coaster that you've ridden and be like, oh my god, like this, I love this so much. But then I think about it and I'm like, I'm also riding a lot of coasters and I'm getting really jaded. So when a new roller coaster really excites me, I need to also maybe take that more for face value than I might have in the past. Because if something like really hooks me on the first ride and I'm just like really blown away, like that means something. I think that means a lot.
Absolutely.
So Flash, I was just happy to ride it. I was just excited that it was open, we were allowed to ride, and we rode it 3 times, and it was so good. It's a perfect hyper coaster, and it really combines a lot of
two inversions,
great elements. You've got a fabulous, like, full throttle sized vertical loop that threads the lift hill. It's almost like this giant, like, Kumba moment, the first, drop and loop. It's fabulous airtime, tons of airtime. Great floater through the 0G roll, and then fabulous laterals. The finale at the end, the little figure eight thing that it does at the end is like
a nice touch.
Yeah, it's just nice getting a laterals fix on a coaster that also does height and speed and airtime and inversions so well. It felt like this amazing like buffet of great roller coaster moments. And I would say that it might be my favorite. I think it's my favorite Mack coaster. It's really hard to compare it to Ride to Happiness, because Ride to Happiness is so chaotic, and there's something a little more straightforward about Flash, even though it's
still a Mack.
Pretty.
I know.
As far as favorite Mack rides go, it was fabulous, and I will say, I just rode Hyperia last week, and I really liked it a lot, but I think I like Flash better. Flash is just is huge.
That is wild to me.
Just goes on and on. Giant ride.
And real quick, for those that are curious about Flash Leo Adventure, it is the coaster in Xi'an. It was like the first Mack hypercoaster, I think.
It was built right around the same time as the clone of it. There's a clone of it in Turkey.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think Flash might have been first, because it was like the whole
park
the
original,
was designed to incorporate that ride in it. It's just this huge, super long out and back coaster, incredibly from top to toe is just an incredibly long coaster.
And we will be having a full episode on the park and the ride, so we'll dive into that more in the near
it's ironic
episode coming to you.
That ride felt so sturdy and so well maintained. It's 10 years old. The rest of the park felt like every roller coaster could have killed us at any moment. The whole thing could have just collapsed out from under us without warning, except for Flash, which was this pristine model of efficiency and sturdiness. So it was just a really funny experience overall. It was highlighted by this truly standout hypercoaster.
Absolutely. Okay. I'll go next.
Yeah.
I'll go next. I'm going to have to mention one of my... It's like a sentimental number one for me, but not really, as Phantom's Revenge. As an Aero fanboy, as a fan of terrain coasters, I think that there's something about that coaster that is very special. And I remember my first ride and just being all these expectations, all dating back to Greatest Roller Coaster Thrills in 3D, where it was the original Steel Phantom. Yeah. And just being able to finally ride with the ravine drop, I was just
it's the tight loops on the old one for me.
Yes, the teeny little loops. So that's just a very sentimental favorite, and I do think it is one of the best coaster drops, even though it's not that steep. Something about the setting and the way arrows yank you into the airtime, I think is just really special.
I think we have to give credit to those weird trains that are suspiciously strange, where they get closed at left on you.
100%.
There's so much space, but man, you fly in. These little kids probably get close to ejection.
That ride is insane, because it's the same Aero Loopier chassis.
Yeah,
and there was no way for them to accommodate a floor-mounted lap bar, and obviously they didn't want shoulder harnesses, so they mounted it to the side of the vehicle, which is just mad scientist level shit. And I'm glad you included it, because if you didn't, I would have probably included it on mine, because I think that's easily the best coaster in the country.
Wait, hold up, Sven, have you ridden this?
I have not.
Okay,
you need to get to Pennsylvania.
I mean, there's quite some areas in the U.S. that I still need to visit, and funnily enough, I'm revisiting the same area again next year. So
okay, but that's because California is worth it, babe. That's why. Alrighty, next.
Which one should I pick? I'm going to go with one that I rewrote just this summer, and I have still a very fresh memory of it, and I still love it so much. It's Taiga at Linnanmäki.
Oh, that looks like such
bucket
a great
list
ride.
I mean, on the color by itself already attracts me, because I really like the blue. And it's I really like Helsinki as a capital, because it's very quiet for a capital compared to others. And then once you go to the major library, there's a huge lake behind it. And at the end of the lake, that's where you see the beautiful Linnanmäki, including taiga. And I mean, that's when you're already sold on it. But then when you get closer, and you can also walk by the park and see how it is integrated in that area, the way that it touches those rocks. Even when you take the train from the airport to the center, that's when you already see the coaster. So it's really part of the city, and it's, I mean, already the launch itself, I remember sitting there and like, how is this train going to go in this layout? Because that first twist, I mean, it's like an illusion for your eyes. It's weird, but then also the stall is amazing, the launch is amazing, and it's everything what you expect from an Intamin coaster, launch coaster, including the inversions. So yeah, nothing but love for that coaster.
I would say that ride's pretty high on my to-do list. I just wish it was more convenient. Like how Helsinki is like not like, oh, let me.
I love that
in
park.
there.
When I went, they still had the Premier Rides water coaster in that spot, and it was such a funny ride. It wasn't very substantial. I think Taiga was a good trade for that. I think it was an improvement.
So I'm going to continue with my list that includes 0 American coasters. Now look at it.
We each have one American coaster on our lists.
Sorry, I already forgot about that. I'm going to go ahead and talk about a wood coaster next in OCT East. So this is in Shenzhen, south of China, very close to Hong Kong. In fact, there's even a metro line of the MTR that runs there from Hong Kong if you ever are in the area. Wood coaster, yeah, it is. I feel like when they built this, everyone on the coaster enthusiast world, it was on their radar. Like they noticed, they saw TPR did a video about it, and everyone knew about it. The ride lives up to the hype. It really is like a crazy jungle wooden coaster that just blows through the forest at an alarming rate. Trains are kind of yanked because it's a Chinese park, and then it has these tunnels and. It's just a really spectacular ride in the lush jungles of South China, and I don't know what else to say about it. It's just spectacular.
It's my number one wooden coaster.
The views are crazy. I love my GCIs. I will say I'm a GCI person. My favorite wooden coasters are, generally speaking, GCIs. This is everything I want from a GCI, but then add the views and add,
it's just giant.
It's giant.
It's
just one
surreal.
of those rides. Yeah, it's very surreal.
It's hard to believe that there's a coaster there. In a place like that,
In fact, we just did a Chinese coaster ballot for like a Chinese pool for like rides there because we've been on like 16 out of 20 that were on the pool. And you know what? Wood coaster wasn't on there, and neither was Jungle Dragon. And I'm like, no, this list needs to change a little bit because wood coaster. Come on, you cannot say you have there's a Python and Bamboo Forest that was on the list, but I think wood coaster is like the icon.
And like. I love wooden coasters.
Or Fireball in Shanghai was on a something that I was not agreeing with.
That wood coaster, is my favorite wooden coaster by a good margin.
Yeah, it's spectacular.
It's like not even close. I don't even know what my second favorite wooden coaster is now that Lightning Rod has been ruined.
It really is it's like a legendary credit for coaster enthusiasts. Like everyone like drools over this like remote elite coaster just sitting in the middle of nowhere. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And it's just beautiful. It gets better every year with the landscaping. Maybe not necessarily with the maintenance, although I'm impressed with how they've kept it up.
I know, apparently it is still running. I was kind of curious about that a little bit. But
there's no guarantees. Like, I rode it in 2015 and in 2019, and I liked it even better in 2019. I was not expecting that.
Well, maybe because they made you wait for like 10 minutes and then opened the queue until there was enough people to get the full train out. But yeah, anyway, that's on the list. Alexandre.
Okay, let's see. I lost my list. Here it is. Okay, so the wooden coaster. I still wanted a wooden coaster on my list, even though you took wood coaster Shenzhen. I'm like, okay, that's fine. So I literally just said I don't know what my second favorite wooden coaster is, but I am actually lying, because my second favorite wooden coaster is Rutsjebane at Tivoli Gardens in Copenhagen, and it kind of is just like the obvious choice when I think of like a wooden coaster that is just exceptional. It's really the best of the Brakeman coasters, I think, by far. It's very intense. It's not a very big ride, but it's wild. and there's a fun house inside of the mountain that this ride is enveloped by, and you'll go through the turns and like poke through the windows and see people inside the fun house while you're on the roller coaster. And the trains like rock from side to side on the turn. Like, it's just a fascinating ride, and it's old. It's over 100 years old, I think, at this point. Fabulous ride. And just, I think if like wood coaster in Shenzhen is like the best wooden coaster I've been on, I think Roshavanen is probably like the most remarkable one that I've been on, because it is just such a gem. It is just a cool, priceless coaster that is also just objectively very enjoyable and thrilling.
Absolutely. And always, I feel like that's on everyone's bucket list, for me at least, is Tivoli Gardens, even though it's not like
it's Tivoli Gardens.
It's Tivoli Gardens. Moving right along.
For me,
go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I was just about to say that for me, the coaster is still on my list as well, because it was closed when I was there. And I have this typically, because in Sweden, when I visited Gröna Lund, that Twister was closed as well. So, I mean, on the other hand, it's Gardens, reasons to go back.
The B&M was closed. the Floorless coaster was closed.
I'm so terrible. I shouldn't say this, but I'm looking forward mostly to the Floorless Demon.
You're allowed
good.
to be dumb.
I think it just looks so funky and fun.
It's a cool ride. Anyway. It's probably a really cool ride.
I interrupted you, Ian. Let's go.
No, you're fine. I was going to say, I'm going to mention a very typical answer, but it still holds up to me as Fury 325. I think Fury is
a foundation of like great coaster experiences.
Like a very classic great coaster experience. The height, the speed, the elements. I mean, it's just, I remember riding it as very early on, not very early on, but early in like my coaster enthusiast days, and just like, that was my first Giga. It wasn't Millennium Force, it was Fury, and that first drop just felt like the longest thing on Earth, and I don't know.
That was my first Giga too.
Was it?
Wait, no, the Superman and Magic Mountain Con's Giga?
I guess.
No, like, if we're talking about traditional
never
Gigas,
mind, you're right. I forgot about Superman. Yeah.
No, but if we're talking traditional Gigas, though, like Lifto Gigas.
Yeah.
Not, like, launched at 80 miles an hour.
Yeah, Superman would be Superman was my first hypercoaster. That was my first coaster.
No, but, like, Giga, Fury 325, my first one, too. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Still remember first being like, oh, okay, but then the front row, that thing is a beast. Oh, my God.
Absolutely.
I saw
Sven, what's next?
Sean holding his pen to strike down.
I know. I thought you had written it.
For me, that's one of those stories where I visit the park, and the year after they build a major coaster like that, because I had the same thing at Canada's Wonderland, because the year after they built Leviathan. But luckily, in the meantime, I've been back to Canada's Wonderland, so I've ridden.
Oh, that's good.
Leviathan.
You've got at least one B&M Giga.
Yes.
Yeah, Fury wasn't at Carowinds my first time either, so I remember being there thinking, like, what am I doing here? I'm riding Top Gun.
I'm going to talk about another RMC, and it's my favorite one in Europe, and that's Untamed at Walibi Holland. Yes.
I support.
Wow.
Because, like, Zadra has the greatness, but Untamed has the power even more, and, like, the intensity, it has the unique element. It's still my favorite inversion, I think, on a roller coaster, is that after the first drop, that I don't know.
Something else.
And then just the transition from Robin Hood to Untamed, it's so different, especially at night also when you ride along on the side of the lake. I mean, yeah, that ride is just such a gem.
I agree. And I think that last roll is highly underrated.
The perfect I think
it's such a fun way to finish the ride. Like a roll, and then, I think it's a great
that caught
finale.
Me off guard. It reminded me of Outlaw Run's perfect little twists right before the final breaks.
It's definitely a workout also, because I've done the roller coaster run at Walibi Holland, and what's fun about that is that while you're running, the stops are the roller coasters. So, and to ride Untamed, still pumped from running, is different as well, because you really feel the adrenaline pumping and your blood is everywhere, and it's like
Talking about personal hell.
Yeah.
No,
You have to have
it's
upper
so
body
intense
strength on that ride.
Love it.
Yeah, it's very intense.
Because there's no help for you. Your upper body, no shoulder harness,
No
nothing.
help. I am going to move to the last obvious 4D coaster here, Dinoconda, which I personally believe is the best of the 4D coasters. It's like third in command. Like, it was the third one they built, not third in command, third one they built, and they just got it right. They every single element is apeshit crazy. Even the moments of EG&I get to feel kind of slow. What they did with Dinoconda is they build it to the height, a little bit taller than X2, but then all the elements are kind of smaller, so you blow through them at this crazy pace, and then there's a top hat on it instead of like an overbank turn. And then at the end, you have your brake run is at a significantly steeper slope. I would say at least 40, like maybe even 40 to 45 degrees steep. And so you're practically falling backwards, and the brakes start very late, and you're just plowing through that backwards. It's just an incredible ride. And we all know what these 4D coasters do, so I won't be spending all this valuable time on that. But Dinoconda, definitely top 40, top 10 material.
Yeah. More of the same, more of the best. Okay, so the next... Let's see. What do I need to take care of? Oh, you know what? I'm going to talk about my favorite hypercoaster in the world. Totogo. Fujiyama.
That is certainly special.
It looks so good, like, in its
that ride
weirdest
is
way.
So great. I can't believe that ride. That ride is so weird. Well, you know how we're talking about how, like, the language of hypercoasters was still being written? I think Togo was such a great student of hypercoasters and a desire to just do something really peculiar on a huge scale. And I think it's like, if you love Raging Bull for its compactness and its laterals, like, I think, and Phantom's Revenge for that matter, the ultimate, like, laterals hypercoaster experience is Fujiyama.
I feel like Fujiyama is a marriage between Raging Bull and Phantom's Revenge, because it has lap bars that give you way too much freedom. Like, you're like on each other's laps by the end of the ride.
Oh my god!
And then, but it has, you know, the broad stroke and you know, the twister elements that, in a way, that Raging Bull does.
And like, as a child, I remember reading about it. Like, I remember when it opened, and there was a new record-breaking coaster in 1996, and I just remember thinking, like, oh, I'm gonna ride that someday. When I finally wrote it, and thinking back to, like, this coaster that I was aware of as my childhood, it's so satisfying to ride a coaster that you've wanted to ride your entire life, and it is so good. It is so amazing.
Exactly, and like meets the expectations. Absolutely.
And it was so ahead of its time with a lot of stuff. Like, it had the sloped brake run, like, into the station. It did dirt turns, like 90-degree dirt turn toward the end of the ride. That was, like, so thrilling and iconic. It did this sort of, like, slalom-y airtime hill return going into the final break. So it's, like, airtime, but, like, laterals, just, like, for no reason. Like, they, you know, it's just, like, because they can, which is wonderful. So yeah, I just, what blew me away is, like, it's everything that you want from a hypercoaster experience and then some, because it's also, like, over 6,000 feet long, but it's also, like, a really bizarre ride that kind of defies parallels. Like, there's really nothing quite like it.
Right. Absolutely. And I think those, like, weird, like, they almost look like carriages, little trains, are so iconic now. Like,
the trains are really, they're like chariots.
Yeah, with like the silver and the gold.
With fangs on the front.
It's
like, it's
the
a
most
really bizarre.
Very Japanese in a way.
It's so Japanese. I guess we'll go on, like, I'll do my next one, which is now getting renamed, is Project 305. It's my big new credit of this year. I hadn't been to King's Dominion yet, and I know it's controversial, I guess, but I think it's easily the best traditional Giga in my personal opinion, which is my controversial one. But I think it's so much fun, and I don't care that it's getting a weird new name. What is it, Pantheria?
Yeah.
Pantheria.
It's a scientific name, Pantheria.
Yeah, Pantheria. Yeah. I'm excited for the new color scheme. I'm just excited we're still keeping this ride, because I think it's so crazy, and one of the weirdest things that Intamin's ever done, and I still think really holds up well.
Absolutely. In fact, I would agree with you that it's the best Giga.
Yeah.
Now that I've ridden them all, I rode every Giga, and then I went back and rode i305, and I'm like, it's not even close. Like, it's not. I don't even think about the other Gigas, and I'm a huge fan. Spoiler, but I'm a huge fan of Steel Dragon 2000.
Yeah.
For
absolutely.
its uniqueness, but like the other Gigas, even even Fury, I was like, no, like Intimidator is just crazy. What it does to your body is something I'll never forget. I mean, it's right up there with Fujiyama. And Intimidator are like in a similar weight class in terms of intensity. So like, I completely agree with you.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate the support because I think it is controversial, and I get that it's too intense for the general public. But like, it's still like, after riding all the traditional Gigas here in the States, like I'm like, except for I haven't done Canada yet, but I can imagine that that's not going to be that different than what Fury.
I've ridden Leviathan. I couldn't tell you what it does. I don't even remember.
I know there's a tunnel, but like, just the
first drop is really good though.
Yeah.
That's what I remember.
Yeah.
I think the first drop on any B&M Giga is great. And what's crazy about Intimidator is it's not about the first drop. Like, it definitely helps. Like, it's definitely great. True. But, like, the rest of that ride is just so wild. That airtime hill under the lift hill. And I actually think the layout is so elegant as well, which I know isn't something like that we usually talk about, but it's just so pretty. And that giant lift hill is really pretty.
Agree.
I actually do like the first drop a lot. I just feel like there's something, especially when you're in the back of the train, you get whipped over the top.
That's
you're
true.
So high
that
up.
cable lift.
I like
There's
the
so much speed
dirt
on
turn.
the cable lift, and then you get whipped over it, and it's just
that
like
270 dirt turn.
shaking.
The evolution of the 180 dirt turn on Fujiyama is alive on Intimidator 305. Like,
absolutely,
really exceeding the level of human endurance to the point where they had to modify the ride to make it like rideable to normal people, rideable even for enthusiasts.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Sven.
That's saying something. Okay, Sean, get out your notebook, because we're going to talk about Velocicoaster.
Yes.
Yay.
So,
Y'all, we fought for custody for Velocicoaster. Everybody wanted Velocicoaster.
Well, yeah, I think so, for sure.
yeah, but that's a good sign, you know? And,
Absolutely.
like, I'm going to talk about another coaster later on, but Velocicoaster for me was, one of the main reasons, obviously, to visit Islands of Adventure. And already the theme is really exciting, like in the queue line to see when the train is passing by and the raptors are chasing it, and then also in the station, the anticipation once you get the first launch. And just seeing it from across the lake, like, it's such a stunning view. And I remember that used to be like your weekly or daily visit almost for you guys, Sean and Alex, when the construction was going on of that ride.
Oh my god, yeah. I mean, there was nothing better to do. It was 2020.
I still remember seeing it test the first time.
I took those long exposure shots that went over the internet.
Outdoor
of that beautiful churro stand. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
No, but it is quite intense.
Velocicoaster or Taiga?
Velocicoaster is better, but
okay.
I remember that I had to convince myself a little bit that it was better. Like, objectively, and I was like, okay, it ranks higher because of this, and this, you know. But I remember riding it for the first time, and I felt less connection with it than with, for example, Taiga. Maybe it's because everyone loves Velocicoaster. That the anticipation and the expectations were kind of set in a certain way.
I felt the same way. I kind of wanted to hate it because I was like, everyone loves this damn thing, and I'm like, it has to be overrated. It's an Intamin, but it's just like it is like, in terms of storytelling, like, and we're talking storytelling using coaster elements. It's a masterclass. Like, the way it builds on itself, the different segments of it. Like, I think that's why it actually works. It's not necessarily the theme. It's like the setting and like the way it the pacing.
And I will say it gets increasingly better. Like it does. Like the ride layout is one of the few layouts where it builds up.
Exactly.
And it starts off kind of whatever, and then it gets better and better and better, and then it gets like real freaking good. And then you have the final roll where you all almost die, Lake Lagoon, and like it's done. It's like, well, it's. I don't think I can think of many rides where the build up is quite as strong, where the climax is the finale, but somehow it works. Like I don't want more afterwards. Like. You're done. Like, okay, this is it.
Yeah, there's no helix.
Like,
there's no helix.
Yeah, there's no figure eight on this one.
There's no helix to kill off steam, and it's just like, the way it builds and paces, like it just feels cinematic in the coaster sense, not like even in the storytelling sense.
But even the storytelling.
Yeah, I think that's solid.
That operating a ride like Velocicoaster. I mean, not that Universal Spark Hours are what they should be, but, the ride is operating continuously all day. There's a lot of wear and tear. Let's not lie. Instruments don't age well, and I am afraid of the sheer usage this ride is getting. First of all, trains don't run as well as they should. And
they shuffle. It shuffles like crazy. Really bad.
It's like the lighting never works on it. But I'm thinking, okay, so all these transitions, like the crazy roll at the end. Like, how is that going to look in 10 years? Like, is it going to need a complete, there's going to have to be track replacement, I think. It's just something I feel like the ride does a lot for it to be running as much as it is. But anyway, that's just a conversation for the future, I guess. But
Absolutely.
I mean, we literally picked that ride to be, the photo for the background.
I know, we did make it a fake ride.
Because we had, a 4-way custody battle over Velocicoaster.
And that's our third shared ride we've all been on. I guess it's my turn again. Cue another damn ride we haven't all been on. I'm going to talk about Battlestar Galactica Cylon at Universal Studios Singapore, because it's a Vekoma, first of all. Second of all, it's highly unique, and it's practically a inverted thrill coaster meets Giant Inverted Boomerang. It's just a wild ride. It does all the right things. Really messes you up in the funnest ways. The launch is punchy. Elements kind of feel like they don't make any sense.
It's bizarre.
It's some parts of the ride you're like, wow, this is why. You actually saw why a lot. But in a good way. It's just a really funky, good ride. It's long. It has a super highly suspended corkscrew, and then it has a drop after it into the
loop,
vertical loop.
Halfway underground.
It just does a lot. I don't want to waste too much time on it, but I think this is a highly underrated coaster and one of the best inverts in the world.
It is.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Knocks your socks off. We always call it the giant inverted boomerang if it was an SLC.
Yeah, it's just the weird era of Vekoma where we're never going to see these kind of Vekomas ever again.
That was the ride that Vekoma became the company that they are.
Yeah, that was the transition ride, I think.
That was,
absolutely.
That was a 5-year project of them fixing it.
Track style, train styles, restraint styles, all of that was a turning point. And then now we have great Vekoma everyone loves, and that is one of the first. So, anyway, Alexander.
Excellent choice. I want to talk about... Actually, I want to talk about Steel Dragon 2000, since I already mentioned that earlier. And so we've been talking about gigas and things. And I want to say, I feel really lucky that we rode Steel Dragon 2000, because originally, Sean and I are both too tall for that ride, technically. And the more we travel in Asia, the more we've learned not to take for granted the times that we've been granted access to roller coasters that we are technically taller than the posted height ceiling. So that was just its own moment of elation of getting to ride, and it's really solid. It's the kind of coaster, when people complain about Millennium Force, and I'm absolutely guilty of that. I love Millennium Force. I like it and appreciate it for what it is now more than I did when it was more of a more relevant coaster. I was always guilty of claiming that it was overrated and thinking it just doesn't have enough airtime. And Magnum is the airtime coaster. They didn't need 2 Magnums, but Steel Dragon 2000 is what you get when you combine Millennium Force and Magnum into one ride, where you have Millennium Force scope and smoothness with a blown up version of Magnum's profile. The spaghetti bowl on the far end is just so elegant, so beautiful. It reminds me a lot of Millennium Force's, island sequence. And when it finishes the second helix, there's this funny little approach, where it weaves around the support beams and then hops up. into the mid-course brake run, which is like it's such a Japanese coaster moment, like this little
very jet coaster
head scratch. Yeah, it was this like wonderful little head scratcher moment of like, oh, this is a Japanese coaster. Like it wouldn't be quite this haphazard looking and feeling if it was in America, and it's like really highlighted by the precise and like elegance of the majority of the rest of the ride. And then like the airtime hill return, the 8 airtime hills going back to the final breaks is just bliss. Like it's just everything that you would want. It's what people who like Magnum but feel like it's too violent and too choppy, like that's the experience that they wish that Magnum was. It has like that comfort level experience of Millennium Force. And I think Morgan Manufacturing, which I think is a company that deserves so much credit, and like Ian, you can attest to like the significance of Morgan in the overall timeline of theme park and ride history and development, like in the United States and around Absolutely. The world. And they really didn't build that many coasters, but it's worth remembering that their like attempt, their foray into the Giga Coaster market, which happened like shortly before the company lost its entire identity in a merger, and then is just like non-existent. Like that ride was incredible. It was such a perfect ride. So,
and shout out to Steve Okamoto for like that,
oh my god,
that layout. And like I still think like as much as the Morgan coasters are not my favorite, there's an elegance to them that is all Steve, and like he is an unsung hero in the coaster like history for sure. My next choice is my personal favorite hyper, which is Sky Rush. I don't know.
Love Sky Rush.
Is everyone else a Sky Rush fan? I haven't ridden it with new trains, but a Sky Rush fan.
No, sure. I'm scared to find out the new trains, because the old trains
are like Velocicoaster.
But I love the old trains. There was something about like there was something about it.
The pain is there's something about the pain. Yeah, it's true.
Something about the pain.
It's just like it makes the ride more intense. Like you really feel like you're hanging on by like a simple piece, like a simple piece of metal. Like you're flying into the sky, and it's a very sliver is holding you in. No, I think that is absolutely part of the character of the ride. But I did hear it's much more comfortable now. But I don't know. I've always liked Sky Rush. I've always loved the insanity of it. Like it's one of those rides where you have anxiety on the lift. You're like, oh, it's happening. Like even though you ride it back to back to back, you're scared. Sven, what's your next?
Okay, so it's my time to be a little bit out of the ordinary, because I have a... we talked about product lines, and it didn't make it into the episode, but for me there is one product line that I really like, and it's the Gerstlauer Infinity coasters. And of course the crème de la crème from those is Schröders Karnen at Hansa Park. Because I remember when I visited that park for the first time, and I was walking underneath those tracks, that is like, how is this even possible? Like, how did Gerstlauer pull this off? Because that construction is just so marvelous. And then going into the queue and experiencing what happens there, which I'm not going to spoil because it's so much more fun if you are able to go in unknowingly, and the same with all the effects that happen in the coaster, and just the size of it and the magnitude of that ride. I know that there are 2 people in this podcast that prefer another coaster in the same park, but
I know. In fact, I had actually put it on my list and then took it away. But okay, you can love this one.
I do have to say it's been a while since I've ridden it, so I don't know how well it has aged in the last couple of years. But from what I remember from it, it was just a masterpiece, and I still love it till this day.
I was going to say that the lift hill on Schröders Karnen is all I care about.
But yeah,
something about the anticipation of the lifts.
Oh
yes, there's something. Something about that. I'm sure, and I haven't ridden it, but I know I've been spoiled.
Next up, talk about anticipation lift. I'm gonna jump onto Stuntfall real quick because the anticipation lift. There wouldn't be a Coaster King Sub 40 without a giant inverted boomerang on the Vekoma end of things. Stuntfall, don't have to say much about it. 200 feet towers. You're suspended beneath the track. It's freaking crazy.
6
very
inversions,
fast.
forward, backward.
Makes me dream. Still makes me a little bit scared because the thing rambles a little bit. It's just like, it's almost like Mr. Freeze in a way, where like there's sort of like power to this ride. There's sort of rawness and there's sort of shakiness to it. But it's like,
there's that fear of bodily harm.
Yes.
Yeah, like there is like slamming into your seat, like motions. Like there's just a lot of 200-foot towers kind of things.
Compound
like,
fracture
just,
from the train vehicle in front of you.
Terrifyingly amazing, and I mean, everyone who's ever ridden Stuntfall, I think, agrees. Even Sven, he doesn't even love.
I love that ride, and it's the first
Stuntfall, man.
Yeah, that's another one of those coasters where when I rode it for the first time, I was like, oh my god, what is going to happen here? Like, I did not expect that. Even when you see it like that, you're like, okay. And I'm so used to the classic boomerang, so it's like, okay. But then riding this one, and I really love the old color scheme, but I can appreciate the new one as well.
I think it works well with the park logo, of course.
It's such an icon for Europe, and it should have been in Walibi, Belgium, but that's another story.
I know.
I really wish.
Anyway, anyone that's riding it soon, row 1. That's all I'm gonna say. Row 1.
And Ian, did you already ride a giant inverted boomerang?
I did. I rode Deja Vu, and it was at Magic Mountain.
Okay.
Oh,
she was cute.
Add that to the tally then.
We'll do the jib
because we've all ridden.
We've all ridden the jib.
Does this count?
I think it counts.
Or is it half?
It
okay, it's fine. Jib. We're on 4. Everyone jibbed it. Okay.
It's really the only true production model on this top 40. It's the In-N-Out burger of production models. It's just the tits.
It's the tits. It's the tits for sure.
Yeah. I rode Deja Vu at Magic Mountain when I was 9, and I haven't been the same. If there's any questions you have about me, a lot of them can be answered by that.
That was the most tragic thing, guys. I still remember because I lived right off the mountain. Yeah. And every day when I would drive down the mountain, I would look at Magic Mountain. And then one day they started dismantling Deja Vu. And every morning there was more pieces gone. It was so fucking sad. Magic? It was sad. You guys ruined a good thing.
All right. You want to talk about sad? My favorite hypercoaster in the United States, depending on how I'm feeling, it's either Phantom's Revenge or Desperado. Our lonesome cowboy dried out in the sun.
I took you on your first ride there.
It was one of our first dates. And
remember, I sat in the desert waiting for it to run.
I had been waiting to ride that coaster for over 20 years, and when I finally rode it, I was beside myself. I was practically in tears. It was so good.
It really is good.
It's another great example of finally getting to ride the coaster that you've wanted to ride since you were a kid, and it was perfect. It was perfect. And we went and rode it on a couple more occasions. And it was always good.
You have Desperado shirts.
Always good. It was just an ass kicker. Bruises on your hips.
It makes Magnum seem tame. Whenever I ride Magnum, I'm like, it's not Desperado.
Yeah, but Desperado, the giant elevated airtime hills on the edge of the property alongside the frontage road. The second hill when you're coming up and you're it's gradually trying to correct itself to a it's just classic Ron Toomer. It's really the most Ron Toomer experience there is.
Really Helix is surprisingly smooth.
It's just a knockout ride. It's a huge ride. It does a lot of things. It's a hypercoaster. It's a mine train. It does a lot. I hope that it reopens. It's just too good. It's too good for it to go away. So
even closed, it's still an icon of Las Vegas. You know what I mean? It's one of those things
the Mirage. It's the Fata Morgana of Vegas.
Yeah, absolutely. My next choice is my first RMC on this list, which is Outlaw Run. I think Outlaw Run, and I haven't ridden it since they've changed it to the out of the topper track, so I don't know how it's running now. But I think it's one of the best layouts.
It's still topper track.
No, Outlaw Run's the same. It's Lightning Rod.
Oh, is it the same? I didn't know why I thought they replaced it with iBox.
Lightning Rod has had gender affirming treatment.
No, but I think Outlaw Run, I think that the length people complain about, but with me, RMCs can be so uncomfortable that length is perfect, especially after the double barrel rolls. Where you're just I'm gonna die, and you're after that double barrel roll. Speaking of great finales with don't have an extra helix, that is a way to end a ride. and I recommend it to everyone to go there because I think it knocks the socks out of some of like the like higher profile RMCs in the country.
And talk about your terrain again, Ian. I mean, this is like the terrain.
It's the queen of terrain coasters.
It's so good. I mean, every second counts. Nothing is duplicated. Which my problem with RMCs is that oftentimes I'm like over it by the end of it.
Yes,
it's like, another Ayrton Hill, another Ayrton Hill.
Samey.
No, it's like every single element is unique. Bam, 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 done. No, ideal coaster. My favorite topper checker for sure. It's not my favorite RMC. Period.
Probably the best RMC that we've been on.
100%.
Yeah.
Alrighty, Benjamin.
I'm going to keep the trend continuing because you're saying it's your favorite topper track RMC, but have you ridden Wildfire at Kolmarden?
No,
I have not, and
I have a
sure I would love
suspicion
it.
though it may not.
Because that's
But
my
I haven't ridden it. I can't speak.
that's my favorite wooden coaster at the moment.
Is
in
it
the
the
world.
views, Sven? Because the views look spectacular.
To be fair, the views do have a large portion of it, and just the way it's integrated in the middle of nowhere, basically, because it's a zoo, and all of a sudden you have this major roller coaster there, and it was out of the blue that they announced that roller coaster. It was the first RMC in Europe, and that's like, of all the places that it could have been, it was in a city or town or whatever where no one ever heard of it before, and all of a sudden there it was, the beautiful giant, and the views are amazing, but also the pacing of this. To be fair, in the morning it needs to warm up a little bit, but then in the evening, those last rides on that ride were just amazing.
You know what's so wild? All of the topper trackers that honestly, including Lightning Rod, have been very terrain focused, particularly the three big ones.
Yeah.
Like Wildfire.
Well, they only built 4.
Yeah, but even Goliath is like has this giant ditch that you dive into.
Exactly.
Like it's like in this like so like they're I don't know what it is, but they're all like lit terrain coasters. For
And
sure.
this one was built up from scratch again, so there was nothing to be
But all the top
base
trackers
on.
are scratch.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like there was not a previous coaster standing there also. So
I look forward to riding it. I think it's on our itinerary for next year.
Or
Maybe
2020.
2026 spring. We're working on our
We
future
do a
plans.
Sweden Denmark plan.
It's just a lot we have to cover. Next on my list, I have. I want to talk about. I'll talk about Parrot Coaster just because it's quick and easy. Parrot Coaster, we all know, traveling Ocean Kingdom, biggest. It's still the biggest wind coaster in the world. I think it's still the biggest wind coaster in the world.
Longest.
Has like 3 damn tunnels.
It's a top 3
does everything
B&M
just
for
right.
me.
It's like half hyper coaster, half wind coaster. Doesn't concern itself with the inversions too much. Just 3 inversions. And spends a lot of time like swishing through the forest and underground and past trees and over animal exhibits and over foggy lagoons. It is just one of those rides where like they built it because they wanted to make it a part of a more overall experience, I guess. And it wasn't just a coaster layout. It was like, every element has a purpose, whether it's crossing a midway, going over an animal exhibit, going by a restaurant, diving with a view of the center lagoon. Every single moment on that ride is very carefully designed with a park in mind, and I feel like sometimes that creates the best coasters, and this is no exception.
The straight first drop into a dive loop is sublime.
Yeah, and it's in the mountains. It is just a lush, gorgeous jungle environment. It's just can't hype up Parrot Coaster enough.
Yeah, we love her.
We love her. We love all wind coasters. I don't know if anyone knows.
Yeah,
people know
big
by this
wind
point,
coaster
but
people.
I have never not loved the wind coaster. In fact, I think it's the most underrated production line, and it's not even in my later party episode.
There was
People
one.
talk so much crap about like Gatekeeper.
There was one
and
wing
it's like,
coaster that
Gatekeeper.
disappointed me a little bit, and that's the most recent one that I've ridden, and that's Maximus at
At Legoland?
Legoland
I hadn't
Deutschland.
really thought of the kitty ones.
The little baby one.
It's an interesting concept to
So-
make them little,
That's
That
like
ride
the
looks
last
like-
coaster I would have
That
made
ride is
small.
so funny. It looks like it was designed for Alton Towers. Like, it can't be
It
more than
does.
10 feet off the ground.
Yeah,
Sean,
no,
what
I
is your
don't
next
know. That's not high on the list either. Yeah.
My next one, okay, B&M's. I'm going to talk about the one American coaster that is still left on my list is Alpengeist.
I
Because
love Alpi.
I
We've
love
all
Alpi.
ridden this.
Oh my
We
god,
have
have we?
another
Sven,
one.
have you gone to Busch-
Okay, where are the
I
5?
have.
So Alpengeist is the only B&M invert in this top 40, which I think is also kind of remiss because it is such a great product line with so many great inclusions. But Alpengeist is in like its own area. It's the only true like hyper inverted B&M. Like at 195 feet tall, it's taller than a lot of a lot of coasters that could fall into the hypercoaster category. And it's just so ferocious, but also really elegant. It has a great theme with the ski lift, the lift hill, and then like that super, just like almost just like garish dive, like 270 dive underneath itself. And the first 4 inversions are just so aggressive. The Cobra Roll is one of the greatest moments on any roller coaster anywhere. Kind of like a
terrain
giant boomerang moment.
Terrain
but
is like the theme, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And the ride, the way that it
definitely what we all agree on.
It's just way back up the hill, kind of like a la Run.
Yeah. It's just so... that Cobra Roll is just unbelievable.
I'm starting to feel like terrain is half the work.
Terrain
for these
and
coasters,
like
man.
At least one moment where you feel like you're going to be like dismembered by this ride.
I know. Well, you know, the moment you really feel dismembered, going into the mid-course brake run.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Why is that like
Punched.
literally like?
Shit.
Why is it like a guillotine?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like a good guillotine.
Insane.
Yeah, you know the ride's good when it's not even a perfect ride, but it's
Like
still
a
the
literal
best
spinal
B&M
readjustment, and then you still have the ride to go. Yeah.
I just think it's so impressive, and considering how old it is, like it still is like it takes your breath away when you see it, and then when you realize how big that first drop is going to be because of the terrain, it's just like where is it
inverted
coming from?
hyper? It's where it's at.
But being at the top of the lift and like the loop, the vertical loop is right
like
below your
far
feet and like so far away.
Yeah. That
So
ride's
good.
cool.
My next one
Are
is
we gonna
one
say
that-
it's the best B&M invert? Sorry, did we agree on that?
I agree completely. I haven't
I
read
would
Nemesis.
struggle.
I'm the
It's
one.
like, listen, fuckers.
I'm the Nemesis one. Team
Nemesis
I haven't
is
written
great.
Nemesis, so I can't say.
Nemesis is awesome. But there's just a lot of like those small gauge B&M inverts that are really incredible.
I mean,
the Batman
Osiris
clones.
is my favorite.
Yeah,
Osiris
personally-
is great. Black Mamba.
I'm not
Inferno.
I'm not a big fan of the large, outstretched B&M inverts like Katoon and Alpengeist that much, compared to the compact, punchy B&Ms like Nemesis, like Black Mamba also. So the powerhouses, that's more my taste. But
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do my last 2, if that's okay with everybody.
Yeah, go
just
for
because
it.
I have to hop off, and I know that's no fun, but I'll be back. But one of them is not one that I think you all agree with, which is El Toro. I think El Toro remains one of the best Woodies in the States, especially. And then one that I think we've all ridden, which is Ghost Rider. And if that ride didn't have horrible long
that is
lines,
another one we've all ridden.
I love Ghost Rider. I think it lived up to the hype for me, which was impressive because it was pretty high. And if that thing could be operated a little bit more efficiently, I think it would be phenomenal. But it's still a great ride.
it's the best coaster I've ridden at Knott's Berry Farm.
Oh,
But to be fair, quite some rides were close there.
I don't know.
That's also true. Yeah, your experience is miserable.
I wanted to ride the accelerator, but they decided to close it. So
I'm so sorry, Sven.
And Montezuma's Revenge.
But I mean, to go to Knott's is to like not ride everything.
If 1/3 of the rides are closed, aren't closed?
Are you
like,
even
did
going to Knott's?
go
It's
Knott's?
true. It's really true.
Yeah, people don't talk about it enough. People love to shit in every other park, but Knott's never has the operation together. Period.
It's true.
Beautiful El Toro, love it. Ghost Rider, love it.
It's only
El
fair that
Toro
there's an
is
infinite
really one of those
prefab in
rides
there.
that messes you up, like in a good way.
In a good way,
I mean,
yeah.
come on, Kindercar, El Toro are like the power couple that people don't talk about enough anymore.
Absolutely.
Like the 05, 06 editions. They haven't done it like that since.
No.
Except for Tatsu.
Sven.
Ian, I know you have to run real quick. We will
Yes.
see you on the second half of the
I will
episode.
see you on the second half.
Yes.
Much love to you all.
See you in
Okay.
the second half. Much love
see you soon.
Bye.
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 So I guess we'll wrap up the last 2 of our other top 40s.
Yeah, go ahead and do your last 2.
So Sven.
Yes, so for me, I have left my favorite in Europe and my all-time favorite so far. So let's start with my favorite in Europe, and it's still, after all these years, Taron at Fantasia.
I am amazed by that, Sven.
'Cause
what is it about this ride?
Yeah, because to be fair, not every ride on this ride is the same. Because I remember when you guys rode it with me for the first time, and you were like, meh. But then, it's another one of those that needs to warm up a little bit, and by the end of the day, I've ridden it once 15 times in a row, and I still was not tired of it, because there's just something about that ride, the theming around the ride, the music for the launch, for example, the way it's integrated in that park. I just love everything about it, and it still packs the punch that I desire in that kind of ride, especially the second launch. The trains are beautiful. So even though it doesn't have any inversions, which it does not need for me, Sean, thank you. It's just,
Missing a barrel roll.
Just one.
Just like the roll down after the second launch, man.
For me, it's everything it needs to be.
It's the almost complete package.
And it's amazing in the dark with the lights that they have provided for it. There's just so much I like about this ride, and it's also closer to me than some of the other rides that I like. So, and it's at one of the best theme parks in the world for me. So It's just a combination of all that still makes me love Taron for what it is, and that's just how
fair.
it is for
that's
me.
Fair, I agree. Yeah, I can see that. And then,
but then
do want to move to,
yeah.
But then last year it got, well, even though Taron is such an amazing ride, that's what I mentioned with Velocicoaster, that it ticked more boxes than it did for Taron. So even though emotionally I'm more connected to Taron, objectively I prefer Velocicoaster. And then another one that I prefer was Iron Gwazi at Busch Gardens Tampa. Operations were not ideal, but at least I got to ride it twice when I was there, and maybe even 3 times. But my last ride on it was in the dark, back seat. It had warmed up all day, and that's just one of the best coaster experiences I ever had so far. So
I think for us, it is too our favorite RMC. Well.
It's our favorite.
Iron Horse.
Iron Horse.
Yeah, because I still like the Top Trackers better. But, I think we agree. But for us, it is just like the broad stroke approach. Is that I don't like all the tiny bunny hops. I don't like getting gut checked every 5 seconds. It's something about Iron Gwazi. It's massive. It's like a massive hypercoaster, giant strokes and elements. And that just really makes that ride for me. It doesn't concern itself with gut punching. It just everything it does, it's kind of different and grand. And even the stall is like elevated in the middle of like this element, and you can't even see it off the ride. It's just kind of buried in the superstructure. Yeah, I think I tend, and that roll down. Oh my god, the roll down is like, come on, iconic. That's what's happening. In my opinion.
Because even as I mentioned, Untamed, I like it for its compactness, but here in its grandeur, it does just do the same, not the same kind of feelings, but it has the same punch that I expected, which Sadra had a little bit less. Iron Gwazi is for the win for me.
I do. I get it. I will move on to my top 2, which...
Your last top 2.
my last 2 in the top 40. I'll start with Jungle Dragon, which is the new Vekoma launch coaster, a Shockwave model, the actual Shockwave model, not the extended one.
The standard Shockwave.
Dragon
Vekoma
Valley
Shockwave.
in Nanjing in China. This is my first major exposure to like a brand new modern age Vekoma launcher. And I just fell in love. I mean, we got really lucky how we got to ride it. And if you listen to our Nanjing episode, the the ride was closed. Like, the ride was big closed, wasn't open for the day, and we walked around hours, and eventually maintenance/park management called us up to the exit and let us ride in maintenance mode while they were on the catwalks with the alarm sounding and everything. It was wild, and we rode it twice, once in the very back, once in the very front. Absolutely phenomenal ride. Every element nicely curated, perfect balance between airtime, twister moments, good inversions. I mean, I'm a looper person, and everything complemented the inversion so well. It was just, God, this is the reason that we're going to Poland next year.
I was about to say, I'm curious how it will compare to Abysses at Energylandia.
Yeah, me too.
Once we rode it, we were like, well, now we need to go to Poland and ride the other one.
Because on
so
paper,
good.
does it have any differences?
Yeah, so
in layout?
So Shockwave, so Jungle Dragon in Nanjing has an extra inversion.
Okay.
So it has an extra corkscrew. It doesn't have the brake run set up the same way. So their brake runs are all aligned, as where the brake runs in Abysses are almost like L-shapes. And so there's room for corkscrew on the Jungle Dragon. And of course, Jungle Dragon doesn't have the whole first half, or like the first quarter,
the super shockwave.
Yeah, because
first half.
Abysses has like the first launch with like kind of a meandering moments, and then it has the big launch. You go straight into the big launch here on Jungle Dragon.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I'm curious to see in the feel the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And then, which cannot be missing from this top 40 is Batman Gotham City Escape.
Yeah.
It is the legend. I can't believe I have 2 coasters from Parker Warner in my top 40.
I was surprised when I saw that.
Nanjing,
but on the other hand, yeah.
And 2 Nanjing coasters. But I mean, I really feel like even in my general top 10, if it wasn't a combined 40, both Gotham City Escape and Stunfall may very well be in there.
Yeah.
I personally even prefer Gotham City to Velocicoaster.
Yeah.
I think the layout is much more eclectic. It does things so differently. It's like the little airtime hop into the tunnel in the middle of the ride. It's the hop into the corkscrew. It's just things that happen differently. It's the stall that you double hop into the big stall and then you dive out of it like in a complete 180
unbelievable.
Twist. And I mean, then you crash into that half pipe. I mean, there's just so much about that ride, and we have a whole episode on how much we love that ride, so I won't get into it too much. But there's just something about that ride that I think is really just spectacular and cool, and I think the queue is nice, the pre-shows are cool, station's nice, onboard audio. I just think, damn, they really just pulled off a Velocicoaster product at Parker Warner, and that is high praise.
Mm-hmm. It's my favorite Intamin.
Yeah, it's just so good.
Yep.
And then your top 2.
And then the last 2 on my list are kind of some funny ones.
Although
speaking of Intamins that I love, Studio Tour at Movie Park Germany.
Love it.
Snuck its way into my list because I thought about it and I was like, a roller coaster that just really impressed me on a personal level, that just delighted me in ways that I liked. And one of the coasters that I thought of including that didn't make the cut actually was Hagrid's Magical Creature Motorbike Adventure. And I was like, it's kind of... Studio Tour is not as big as that ride, and it doesn't quite have as many gimmicks, but it's just so well done. I just love the quirkiness of that ride, all the choices that they made with the themes, the scenes and stuff. It's really my favorite combination roller coaster dark ride experience, where there was just such a beautiful marriage of dark ride sequencing and roller coaster sequencing, to the point where I couldn't believe it. Like, I could not get over how much that ride delighted me.
I will say I think it's vastly underrated. I mean, I enjoy that ride so much, and I hear so much positive feedback, like surprisingly positive feedback. Everyone's like, oh my God, this is so much better than I expected. And, there's so much scenery and theming and details, and I
was like, it's my favorite coaster in Germany. It beat out Fly and Expedition G-Force for like...
It's a choice. It's a choice. It's not my. It's not even my favorite coaster at Movie Park Germany. So it's like
you love Van Helsing, which who doesn't love Van Helsing?
I do.
But I would still honestly take it over Van Helsing, because Van Helsing still has a couple of shortcomings for me. I think
once you've ridden a certain number of coasters, it's just stuff that just is just so different, so weird.
Starts standing out.
There's just nothing like Studio Tour just caught me so off guard. It was such an unconventional. Like, I'm like, okay, so they built a launch coaster. It's themed to the Studio Tram Tour, like in Hollywood, but it's in Germany. And I'm like, okay, I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Like, what are they doing? Like, what is this ride? And I wrote it, and I was like, oh my God. I was just baffled by it and the brilliance of it. Just like the sheer, unfiltered brilliance of that ride and the choice to do that ride. And I was like, and it's just pleasant. It's just fun in a way that, like, a lot of my roller coasters that I pick are, like, very aggressive, like, beat you to a pulp, like, stretch your body to the limits. Fly is a great example of that. But yeah, so I had to include Studio Tour just because I feel like it just does what it does. I don't think there's another coaster out there that does that as well as that one does. And then finally, last but not least, Olympia Looping. I was putting this list together, and I was like, I'd be remiss not to include a Schwarzkopf because I just love Schwarzkopf coasters. And obviously, I think if you have ridden Olympia Looping, I think for most people that kind of becomes like the key Schwarzkopf experience once you've actually ridden it. There's great Schwarzkopfs all over the world, but like Olympia Looping for just the audacity factor. Like when it's kind of I've talked about before. It's like a coaster that has the audacity to do something like that. I'll just never forget it. And I'll always cherish the boldness when it comes to designing a ride with 5 vertical loops and it pulls like 5 positive G.
Such an icon.
It's like, why? But then it's like, well, why not?
I haven't actually not ridden it, but late next month we're going to Winter Wonderland. So
Yay.
I'm going to ride Munich Looping in London, and it'll be my first time riding it. I'm very much looking forward to it.
It's one of my few credits that I have in Luxembourg. And
right.
And then also this year I rode it again in Wiener Prater, where it's been quite a few times.
So do you count it twice?
I do not count it twice. Okay. But I do count it.
Shout out to it's a credit or not.
But I do count it as
I would never
as
count
my
twice,
Luxembourg credit because I wrote it there.
Yeah, of course.
For me, it's the location that counts.
Yeah.
I feel like whatever country that coaster is in, it like contends for like the country's best coaster until it leaves.
And what I loved about it too is that right next to it is my other credit, and that's Alpina Bahn. So I had the two major
Beautiful.
ones right next to each other.
Such a great ride.
That's just one of my favorite memories of 21 is riding those two coasters in Luxembourg.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So our top 40, we have 6 rides that we've all ridden, which is great. Yay. I didn't write down which ones, I just tallied. So I forgot which ones it were, but I'm
glad
4 of us have ridden.
that there's also coasters on them that I'm the only one that's ridden them.
yeah, that is nice.
Not for long, Sven. Enjoy it while you can.
Shouldn't you guys go to China?
Don't worry, babe. We got an next going to China. Next trip planned. So yeah, that wraps up the top 40 of Coaster Kings Radio as part of our 100th episode special anniversary situation station. This is going to be part 1 of the episode, and then Ian, Sven, Alex, and I will all be back for part 2, which you can listen to this back to back. So while you're listening right now, both episodes will be live. Make sure that you tune in right away for the second episode, but for your sake, we're splitting it up into 2 before you're listening to us for like who knows how many hours. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you on part 2. Check it out right now wherever you're streaming, or make sure you save it to listen to it later. And we'll catch you soon. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Hear you soon.